Good morning. It is the 23rd of April, Monday. Thank you for joining us today. It's sunny. Finally, spring is in the air. We've been waiting for it for a while now. We should be halfway through it. But thank God it's here. Well, 2 weeks ago we had Alexander Micheal Gittens come and share with us here at the studio. Well, welcome back. He's here again today. What do you do when you tried and experienced consuming an exotic fruit for the first time and you found that it's really good? What do you do then? Well, you ask for more. Well, listening to the lessons and the insights that Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens share, it's like consuming an exotic fruit for the first time and discovering that it's actually good. At first, like any new food or new exotic fruit that you have tried for the first time, in the beginning, at first bite, you don't quite know how to react. You don't quite know what you're tasting. But you have to digest, you have to chew on it, digest, and take another bite. Then it grows on you, and you realize, oh, what a discovery. I'm gonna go back again and again and again. I'll be a regular at this fruit stand and make sure that I tell all my friends what a new fruit I've discovered and how good it is. Well, I know that you won't regret for tuning in today. We are fellow students and I am excited to learn something new. And in about 3 seconds, we're gonna kick this thing off. And since we all came here and now we saw, let's go for it and conquer. Veni, Vidi, Vici. Friends, welcome back to the third episode of the Mondays Finance, Business, and Indie-Preneur podcast. Every Monday here at the Ordinary Joe Show. Today, we have Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens come back to the studio because we had a taste of what kind of wisdom, what kind of insight he can offer to our listeners and to our viewers. And due to popular demand, we really want to hear some more and to learn some more from our very insightful, very wise, and very professional business strategist, speaker, and author. Let's for if you missed the first episode with Mr. AMG, I'd like to ask you to go back to our iTunes and take a listen on the first episode when we first have Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens come to our show. If you're here for the first time and you're ready to listen to the second, this is the third episode of the whole show, but second episode to have Mr. AMG on our set. Well, let me give you a foretaste, a little sip of how it is like to talk to Mr. AMG, Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens, and take a little listen on a preview of a little snippet of our conversation about how to be noticed in a dense and busy business space. Here, take a little sip of Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens.
So if you are starting a business with the motive of becoming rich or becoming validated or all of that's not necessarily a bad motive. But I challenge our listeners, I challenge our viewers to look at money, power, fame, affluence as one result.
As a result
of being successful.
That's right.
But not the cause of pursuing success in the first place.
That's right.
And you might say, Alexander, that sounds very romantic, that sounds idealistic. But as we go through this episode, I'm going to demonstrate very clearly how the most profitable way to operate, the most way to get recognized is by creating the biggest positive impact, being the best and most you, rather than trying to figure out a way to get rich or trying to figure out a way to be affluent.
Well, I'm on the edge of my seat now.
Okay, really, sounds good.
I really want to hear this because if you can combine the two, being meaningful at the same time, profitable. That's
you have to combine the two.
Well, folks, I think you believe me now when I told you this is how it is like to have a conversation with Mr. AMG, Alexander Micheal Gittens. When you listen really close to the way he thinks, it seems to me, it feels like the greatness factor, the greatness equation is already built in. But we tend to kind of resort to artificial ways of pursuing greatness because we see other people do it certain way, or we see other people do shortcuts and whatnot, and we want to get there also the same time other people gets there. But we only need to hone in to our inner us, like what he was saying. Being meaningful and being profitable has to be done at the same time, because the most profitable way to grow a business, grow your brand, and see the profit from it is by doing it in such a way that it is meaningful as well. So if you do something really excellently, you put all your heart, you put all your strength, you put all of your mind into doing something excellently, and you do it for the right reasons, it turns out that that's also the way to make a profitable enterprise. I know that Mr. AMG is a very busy individual. He's a very busy professional that's very in demand among business circles, academic circles, but we will try our best to have him over and invite him whenever he has opening in his schedule, because we know that you will profit, you will benefit a lot from listening to his experience, to his knowledge, and from his expertise. And like we said, we are listener-centric, and we are viewer, listener, follower-centric here at The Ordinary Joe Show. So we try our best, we do our best here to deliver and to bring you very valuable conversations here on our podcast, so that you can learn and share it with your friends and use it on your own practice of building your own brand, or maybe starting your own business, or even as a career person, if you just want to pursue a career and find a good job after college. If that is your purpose, that is your direction, words of wisdom that we learn from Mr. AMG can be applicable also. Building your own personal brand as a career person, it also applies. And so, yeah, this is our promise. We will try to have him and others like him to speak to you here at the Business, Finance, and Indie-Preneur podcast Mondays here at The Ordinary Joe Show. And before we continue with this episode and bring back Mr. AMG to speak to us here on the microphone, we just want to remind our listeners and our followers with some of the business networking events that's happening here this week in our beloved city of Toronto. We mentioned this and we announced this last week, but this is a reminder of some of the important ones and the additional ones that's happening again. We will do this really quick, as I can see the break time looming very soon. Just happened this morning. We missed it. If you didn't hear this from last week, this morning we had the Employer Branding Academy kickoff that started at 10 a.m. I don't know what time they finish. If you're in the area, check them out. EY Tower, Toronto. At 8 p.m. tonight, how to be consistently profitable in Forex trading. That's 8 p.m. Monday 23rd. Let me just look quickly at the location. It's an online event, M3C. Tomorrow, Tuesday, social media crash course with a startup coach happening at Workhouse Commerce Court South, Toronto. That's at 6 p.m. Again, tomorrow, Toronto Speed Networking Event, Business Professionals. It's happening at Quail, Toronto. That's at 7 p.m. Another one at 5 p.m. tomorrow, Import and Export Intensive Bootcamp, happening at the Metro Hall, 5 p.m. And on Wednesday, 2018 Best Workplaces in Canada Award Ceremony, happening at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. That's Wednesday, 5 p.m. Wednesday, April 25, 8:30 a.m., 2018 Great Place to Work Canadian National Conference, happening at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. And the rest of this will be posted on the ordinaryjoeshow.ca website. If we're not, I see the break time is happening right now. So the rest of the week's event will be posted at the Ordinary Joe Show website. Don't go away. We'll be back in about 60 seconds. Hello, a friendly reminder to all our followers and listeners on iTunes, Spreaker, and SoundCloud. Every Wednesday, if you like the topic of food, fine wines, and festivals, every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific, we talk about everything about food, restaurants, new restaurant opening in Toronto, events, films about food, and all kind of stuff. So please check us out on Wednesdays on Wednesday podcast here at the Ordinary Joe Show. Please don't go away. We'll be right back after these short messages. Welcome back to the Monday podcast here at the Ordinary Joe Show. Monday's finance, business, and Indie-Preneur podcast. Continue on before we get back to our conversation with Mr. AMG, Alexander Micheal Gittens. We'll just quickly tell you the rest of the events, the business events that's happening in our city here in Toronto, all and around the GTA. On Wednesday, 2018 Best Workplaces in Canada Award Ceremony happening at the Metro Toronto Convention Center. That's at 5 p.m. Wednesday, April 25. The same day, 2018 Great Place to Work Canadian National Conference also happening at 8:30 a.m. So there's two of them. Great Place to Work at 5 p.m. and at 8:30 a.m. as well. Compass Group Canada Job Fair, April 25, 2018, the same day, 10 a.m. This one is happening at 2425 Eglinton Avenue East, Suite 303 in Scarborough. On Thursday, Digital Marketing 101, 7 Steps to Getting Started. April 26, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. happening at 301 Burnham Thorpe Road, West Mississauga, Central Library. At 6 p.m. on the same day, get more value out of LinkedIn for your sales and career goals. This is happening at the 95 Wellington Street, West Toronto. Same day, 6:30 p.m. Gala Relève, Toronto 2018. That's a French word that I can't quite pronounce, but that's happening at 6:30 p.m. on Atrium de Radio Canada, Toronto. So this might be CBC, Atrium de Radio Canada, Toronto. On Friday, Public Real Estate and Investment Strategies Educational Seminar. And on Friday as well, Danforth Pay Toastmasters regular meeting at McClintock Manor, Toronto. So the public real estate real estate investment is happening at the Spokes Club, Toronto. And the Danforth Pay Toastmasters will be happening at McClintock Manor, 7 p.m. The last one for Friday is Focus on Strategic Solutions to Benefits Risk. Bray Bend Golf Course, Mississauga, 8 a.m. Friday, April 27. So check all of these events out at eventbrite.ca, and also it'll be posted on our website at theordinaryjoeshow.ca. And now back to our conversation with Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens. Thank you for sticking around.
Welcome back, and as I mentioned earlier, we have a special guest today, and it's not the first time he was here on our show. Welcome back, Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens. Thank you for coming back, and
thanks for having me. Yeah, good to be back.
Awesome. So last time you were here, you're telling us about everything about you.
Yes,
basically.
We went past, present, future.
That's
everything.
right. It's the whole package. There was so much to digest, and I think I'm looking forward to a pack full of insights again today.
Cool. Yes, glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, this goes to I have a variety of episodes, and this particular episode will go to our business.
Oh, okay. Yes.
I coined this term called Indie-Preneurs.
Okay, tell me more about that. Yeah.
So I've been initially dealing with indie artists.
Yes.
But I know that being an artist, you need to be an entrepreneur. You need to
absolutely
some business acumen as well. So this one is going to that one, and I'd like to ask you a lot more question about your business insight. You're a strategist.
Okay, sure, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about, just a recap from the last one? What is a business? Tell us about who you are, what you do.
Sure. So I'm Alexander Micheal Gittens, and there's two sides to my career professionally. Number one, I'm a strategist. So I'm a consultant who deals with top-level management, setting the course for the company. So an easy way to think of my job is a CEO for CEOs. So that's the strategy side. Then on the other side, I'm a speaker and an author. So the interesting thing about that, Joseph, it's almost the exact same job, except the motive has changed now from a profit motive that a business would have, making the biggest impact, being a profitable one, to how do I know with my collection of gifts, talents, passions, and values, how do I know what's the best route for me to make the biggest positive impact? So in one, we are looking at greatness through the lens of a company, and through the other one, through the lens of an individual. But the principles are the same. Yeah.
The principles are the same.
Sure are.
That's awesome, right? So it feels like, when you're developing yourself to greatness, it's like probably you should have that boardroom in your head also. Like,
I never thought of it that way, but that's a good visual, yeah.
Do you remember the movie Founders?
No.
So it was
Founders.
It's a Hollywood. It was very recent. I saw it on Netflix. So maybe the actual showing on theaters probably a year or two ago.
Okay.
But it was the story of this guy who helped franchise McDonald's.
Oh, I think I saw that one. Yeah, I think I saw that one. I know the story anyway. Ray Kroc is his name?
That's right, I think, yeah.
I definitely know the story well, yeah.
I remember one snippet in that story where he was talking about, in every town, there's a church.
Okay.
There's a gasoline station, I think, and there's a...
yes.
So a church, a school, and a gasoline station, and he was saying the next icon for every town would be a McDonald's.
Oh, okay.
Remember, I don't know if you remember that, but and so it kind of this leads me to the question I have for you today, because we live in a huge but tiny community because of the internet.
Sure.
Right? So because of the kind of community that we are in now, cyber community, or we're all interconnected. How do we, if I want to get into business, I want to be an entrepreneur, an ordinary Joe who wants to transition from 9 to 5 and start. The biggest challenge is always trying to get noticed in a very dense and busy business space.
Yes, of course.
So let's say electronics is a very busy business space. Is there any business space that you like that is very familiar to you?
Sure. Well, let me answer your question, then we'll take a step back.
All right.
So to answer your question, I decided out of my PhD work, my doctoral work, that I wasn't going to focus on one particular industry.
Okay.
I would focus on the size and stage of the company.
Okay.
So I don't work with startups particularly, but I work with what's called micro businesses.
Okay.
So we're looking at companies that have sometimes between 5 and 25 employees, somewhere between $1 million and up to maybe $100 million in revenue. So there's a little bit of momentum, but they may not have a seasoned executive. The executive team might also be the founders and operators, and they're wearing many hats. And if we think about companies of that size, sort of like a ship, an ocean vessel, then if we compare it to the Titanic, let's say, when the Titanic spotted the iceberg coming towards it, they put the engines in reverse. They went hard to port.
That's right.
And they still hit it.
Yes.
But if you were in a canoe, you could have been asleep in the canoe and you would have hit the iceberg and you would have woken up and been like, hey, what did we hit? But it wouldn't have been
as tragic.
It wouldn't have been tragic at all. You just would have missed a couple hours of sleep. So at the same time, there is good things about being big. It's also more agile to be small. You can react to things faster. You can pivot faster. So the bigger question is, for me, there's no particular space that I would say is a better industry than others, because as soon as you start believing that that industry can't be touched, Then the next thing you know, a competitor comes along that just
take over everything.
I mean, we're Canadians, right? So there was Walmart and Woolworth and Kmart and all of these companies that we thought would be around forever. And I guess Sears is the latest victim. I grew up, we had Eaton's as well. Yeah. Where are these companies now?
Toys R Us.
Toys R Us, and we're still not sure what's going to happen with that, but it doesn't look like it's a good situation. So at the end of the day, any industry can be disrupted. But let's take that step back that I talked about, because there's a deeper lesson here. Making money, being recognized, proving people wrong, all of those are motivations that I'm not going to say that they're good or bad. Whatever gets you off your seat, whatever gets you out of bed and makes you want to work harder, that's exactly what it is. It's simply motivation to move forward.
Okay.
But your highest obligation as a human being to be the best you and to create the biggest positive impact you can, it doesn't stop when you start a business. So if you are starting a business with the motive of becoming rich or becoming validated or all of that's not necessarily a bad motive. But I challenge our listeners, I challenge our viewers to look at money, power, fame, affluence as one result. As a result of being successful.
That's right.
But not the cause of pursuing success in the first place.
That's right.
And you might say, Alexander, that sounds very romantic, that sounds idealistic. But as we go through this episode, I'm going to demonstrate very clearly how the most profitable way to operate, the most way to get recognized is by creating the biggest positive impact, being the best and most you, rather than trying to figure out a way to get rich or trying to figure out a way to be affluent.
Well, I'm on the edge of my seat now.
Okay, really, sounds good.
I really want to hear this because if you can combine the two, being meaningful at the same time, profitable. That's
you have to combine the two. And this episode is all about how to stand out in a crowded marketplace.
That's right.
How to find your place. And the example you used initially, Joseph, was if we were looking at electronics, then how are we going to find our place in that market? We're competing against the LGs and the Samsungs and the Apples and even companies like HP and older players in the industry are still viable. They're still doing their thing. But why don't we stop looking at electronics as an industry and we start looking at problems that we want to solve?
I'm very excited to hear this, Alexander, but let's just take a quick break.
Good place to take a break.
And please don't go away. When we come back, Alexander is about ready to tell us a big revelation.
Sounds good.
Hello, a friendly reminder to all our followers and listeners on iTunes, Spreaker, and SoundCloud. Every Wednesday, if you like the topic of food, fine wines, and festivals, every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific, we talk about everything about food, restaurants, new restaurant opening in Toronto, events, films about food, and all kind of stuff. So please check us out on Wednesdays on Wednesday podcast here at The Ordinary Joe Show.
Welcome back, and here again on The Ordinary Joe Show.
Yes.
We're just continuing on with the conversation about getting noticed in a very busy and dense business space.
Absolutely.
Continue on, Mr. Gittens.
Okay, so let's use an example that everyone can understand, right? It's athletics. I wanted to play in the NBA. You wanted to play in the NBA. We all, as we were kids, had dreams of being an athlete or a musician at a very high level. And when we look at an athlete like Michael Jordan, globally recognized as one of the most visible, one of the most successful athletes of all time. But what happened when Michael Jordan took 2 years off and he decided to play baseball for those 2 years? He was on a minor league team there, but he never broke into Major League Baseball. Are we suggesting that Michael Jordan, one of the most competitive, one of the most ferocious competitors of all time, didn't want it bad enough to become a Major League Baseball player? Do we think that he didn't work hard enough to become a Major League Baseball team player? Or are we realizing that success in any area is a combination of aptitude, so our natural skills, our natural abilities, and when it comes to athletics, our genetics, our metabolism, our body composition, and something called desire and hard work. So if we look at that example of Michael Jordan and we apply it to starting a new company, what we are saying is you have natural abilities. They are from above. They are part of what makes you you. There have been billions of humans that have lived and will live, and there is no one like you that has ever lived, will ever live, or is living right now. You are one of one.
One of a kind.
With that uniqueness of who you are, you have the aptitude to be great, to be profitable, to be affluent. But maybe unlike Michael Jordan, it's not so obvious that it would be basketball for you. But just like we can say that Michael Jordan, who has the competitive spirit of a Greek god, even though we can say that he has that, we have to admit that there are certain areas where he's not going to be as successful as others. So now the desire becomes not just to be rich, not just to be successful, not to just be an athlete, but to learn about ourselves, to develop our passions, to develop our talents, to live inside of our values so that we can create an environment where our uniqueness creates the biggest positive impact. So the number one way to stand out inside of a crowded market is not just to be yourself. That's an oversimplification. The number one way to stand out in a crowded market is to develop the uniqueness of who you are and then use that to create the biggest positive impact and to solve the biggest problem you can. So if your heart doesn't beat for it, if you're not passionate about it, if you're not invested in that area, if you don't have natural aptitude in that area, if it's not a problem that you can work on for countless hours without watching the clock, if that is not the sort of problem that you're tackling, then it's probably not an area that you're going to succeed in, regardless of the size of the industry. So the first step in being successful at anything is asking yourself, what problem, what solution, what passion, what project am I willing to sacrifice for? What do I have a desire for that I'm willing to not sleep for a night or wake up for? And if you haven't discovered that yet, like I hadn't, then that's your mission. Your mission is to, inside of your talents, passions, and values, try as many things as possible and ask yourself, have I put my all into this? Is this something my heart beats for? Is this something that I want to perfect? And through that acuity and through the repetition, the process of mastery, the universe will give you natural magnets and filters. But if you're just trying to make money, then you're missing the opportunity to be great and to create something sustainable that can create wealth and legacy, not just get rich quick.
Well, a lot of ordinary Joes and ordinary Janes listening to us, they probably tried. And this is probably the key. Huh? They tried many spaces, or
of course,
they tried many skill sets.
Yeah,
and they would go be interested in one thing, and then they thought at the end, oh, that's a waste of time.
Yeah,
because I put all my energy and time on that. But it turned out that's not my thing. That's not.
Exactly.
Is there? So I think you agree. We don't see that as waste of time. But apart from that, the question is. Is there a key for you to kind of hone in?
Great question.
What are you created for?
Yes.
What's your purpose?
Absolutely, there is. And this is the key here. And I learned this so late in life. I think I learned it just in time, right? Because I was getting to the age where it's like, I got to do something with my life, right? I learned it just in time. Because I always thought that success in business and in life was one thing 1,000% better. I'm going to find this one thing, and let me unpack it a bit more. I thought if I can find the one thing that I'm passionate about, I'll stay up, I'll work the hours, I'll do all of that. I just need to find this. Now, Joseph, when we say we need to find something, it means two things. Number one, it means it's external.
Okay.
Because if we need to find it, it means it's out there somewhere.
Out there somewhere. Yeah.
Number two, if we have to find it, that means that it's hidden. So it's not in plain sight. We have to find it.
That's right.
So we have this. You have to be careful with the language you use because it perpetuates these detrimental sort of approaches to life. We're not trying to find our greatness. Not at all. We're trying to develop it. We're trying to nurture it. We're trying to cultivate it. The solutions are already within you. The question is are you developing them? So number one, I would say, you are not ordinary Joes, ordinary Janes. That's exactly who I was. I grew up in a poor neighborhood. I have an ordinary family. We were immigrants. We were below the poverty level. My dad got sick when we were young. I've gone to at-risk neighborhood schools. I grew up in two of the worst neighborhoods in Ontario. So I'm below ordinary. That's how I grew up, right?
The ordinary of the ordinary.
Right. The 1% of the bottom of the ordinaries. But the key is I'm not looking outside of myself for one thing that I'm going to put all of my energy in. I'm asking myself with every opportunity that comes up with me, am I operating to the maximum of my passion? the maximum of my talent, the maximum of my abilities. When I'm given this school project, or I'm given this opportunity at my church to do a leadership role, or in the community when there's a flyer and I think, you know what, I've always liked senior citizens, I'd love to help out. Ask yourself, in this one act, in leading this choir, in helping these children raise money, in giving my time and energy to this senior's home, am I okay with this one act representing everything I'll ever be? Have I given everything that I can, all of my passion to this Hawaiian night that I put on for the senior citizens? Have I given all of my talent towards making this event or this outcome the best it can be? And the most important one is, am I operating inside of my values? So what if this small bake sale was the only thing that my entire life was based on? Am I okay with that representing everything I am in legacy? Notice something, Joseph. It's all about me. I don't need it to be a citywide bake sale that makes hundreds of thousands of dollars. But when you treat every opportunity, no matter how small, for me, it was playing the piano in a little music classroom. I didn't know anyone was listening. And the gentleman who was the head of arts and music for the Durham Board of Education heard me playing, said, "Who is that kid?" And then he asked me to play at a silent auction, and I played at a couple other events. I got some weddings from that, and I got exposed to a lot of other things. But if I wasn't playing to the best of my ability when I knew no one was watching, the opportunity wouldn't come. So now our ordinary Joes and ordinary Janes that we love so much are out there thinking, where am I going to find this opportunity? And then they're going to go off to their church group tonight, and they're going to maybe not prepare because they had a busy day, or maybe give. In everything you do, ask yourself, if this is the only thing that my entire existence was based on, am I okay with that? When you start putting together those collections of moments of greatness, the cumulative effect, you might even get to be on an Ordinary Joe show with Joseph one day.
Oh, wow.
You might get to that height.
That'll be
right? Hey, if I can do it, you can do it. The point that I'm making is there was no one thing that happened that allowed me to meet a Richard Branson, or to work with some of the top brands in the world, or to speak on the stages I do, or write the articles I do. It was a cumulative effect. It was proposal after proposal, client after client, item after item. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like maybe we know already. Sure. We don't have to find it. We don't have to hone into it.
Sure.
We know it, but we don't know that we know it. When we come back, we'll ask Alexander Micheal Gittens again about this particular point. Please don't go away. Stay tuned.
Hello, a friendly reminder to all our followers and listeners on iTunes, Spreaker, and SoundCloud. Every Wednesday, if you like the topic of food, fine wines, and festivals, every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, and 9 a.m. Pacific, we talk about everything about food, restaurants, new restaurant opening in Toronto, events, films about food, and all kind of stuff. So please check us out on Wednesdays on Wednesday podcast here at The Ordinary Joe Show. And now back to our regular program.
Welcome back. We're back with Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens. We were talking about finding, honing your who you are. But it was awesome that revelation that if you're finding, it's probably hidden.
And out there somewhere,
right? It's not within you.
Sure.
But that's an awesome revelation. Sure. But so I said before the break, it's probably, you probably know, you didn't know that you know. Will you please continue on with your sharing?
Well, let's talk about what you mentioned there, Joseph, because I think that for you, you've interviewed so many people and you've done a lot of things that maybe our viewers would find exciting. But people wouldn't realize that in your own life, when we sat down and we did our pre-production meeting, we did our pre-meeting, you were the same gregarious, passionate person off camera that you are on camera. Now, what if there was someone in that lobby where we met that was listening to us anything like that? Are we prepared for those moments to happen? Opportunity will always happen. They'll always, but not everyone can recognize it. Not everyone can take advantage of it, because most people are saying, okay, it's a job interview. Now I need to be my best. Or we're going to be in front of the entire community. Now I need to do my best. If you are waiting to give your all, then greatness is not for you. take it from me. I grew up in the worst neighborhoods. I went to some pretty poor schools. I had to fight in the schoolyard and keep kids from stealing my shoes, just like anyone else who grew up in those neighborhoods. But what I did after I made all my mistakes in life and I ended up on the wrong side of the law and I asked myself what kind of man I wanted to be, I made two decisions. Two decisions which have changed my fortunes and put me on a trajectory that I couldn't have imagined growing up.
We don't know what those are.
Sure. Number one, I said, never again will I make any decision that is outside of my highest values. I don't do it.
That's beautiful.
I don't do it. I don't do anything I don't want to do. I do a lot of things that are very difficult. I do many things that are a sacrifice. I do many things that are hard. But at the end of the day, I want my life to count in eternity. So the decisions I make now, I ask myself, am I okay with this interview, with the client meeting I have later on today? Am I okay with that representing everything I'll ever be? That's what I want. Now, once you make that big decision for what you want, that makes other smaller decisions for you. So now I have to pay more attention to health and fitness. Now I have to watch what I say, where I go. I can't do the things I used to do or eat the things I used to eat or read the things I used to read. I've now made a big decision that I want my life to count in legacy, and now the smaller decisions support it. So that's the number one. But if we look at the other side of it as well, when we change the definition of greatness to it's something you develop moment by moment, now it's no longer a thing of chance, is it? It's not maybe I'll find it, maybe I won't. It's now, in this moment, am I living my all? Not my best. Because a lot of people work hard, a lot of people do their best, but are you giving your all of your talent, all of your passions, all of your values? And I'm telling you, I got to meet Richard Branson, the rebel billionaire, the founder of Virgin Radio, Virgin Music, the owner of Necker Island, where Barack Obama went days after he got out of office. I got to meet Richard Branson because someone asked me to have coffee with them to talk about their career. And Joseph, I said yes.
That's awesome.
And I gave that meeting, I gave that young woman everything I had in advice and encouragement. I didn't know that she was at the level that she was at. I didn't know that she was affiliated with a tennis tournament that Richard Branson would be at. All I know is that she said, Alexander, thank you so much. I took the job. Would you want to come out to this event? Turned out I was in the royal box, the VIP box, and in walks the rebel billionaire, Richard Branson,
That's
the founder
awesome.
of Virgin. So now I'm talking to him.
Did you take some pictures?
Well, great question. No, I did not. And you know why I didn't?
Yeah,
because
well, you were not expecting to at
that's
that
not
moment.
the reason.
Yeah.
No. It's even a better reason.
Okay.
And I feel like our viewers have been listening more closely than our hosts, right? The reason I didn't take pictures with Richard Branson is because in every moment I have one thing that's important to me, which is what? Is asking myself, if this is the only thing that represents everything I am in legacy, am I okay with it? So what didn't I ask one of the richest men in the world? I didn't say, hey, can I get a photo? Hey, let me tell you about my business idea. Hey, tell me about your business idea.
It'll be a waste of time.
It's not just a waste of time. That's not my greatness.
Yes.
I'm asking myself, in this moment, how can I connect with this human being and make this something more than what it was? So I was just as shocked as our listeners were, where 15 minutes later, I'm still speaking to this gentleman when there's all these other people in the room who are too afraid to go up to him or can I get a photo with you? And I realized something. The reason why Richard Branson and I talked and hugged and laughed and all of that is because my goal was not to take his time, take his energy, take a photo, borrow some of his affluence to put to my own. I was there saying, you are an example of all of the things I love. You're successful, but you still have fun. I see your family involved with it. I love this. And I just want to talk to you about your life and what you're doing and ask you what you think about a few ideas that I've been kicking around in my mind. It never occurred to me to take something from him, whether it was advice or a moment or anything like that. But imagine, all day long, he's got people, what do you think about this? Do you do this? What are you reading? And individually, none of those are bad. They're not mean-spirited. But it's what can I get from you? What knowledge, what moment, what affluence, what whatever. The cumulative effect of that is exhaustion. But when someone comes up to you and they're asking, what do you think about this idea? And laughing and chatting with you and just having a human moment with it. Everyone knows of that. We all have that friend that when they call, we look at that, oh, I'm not taking that call right now. They probably got another problem with their spouse. Or we got that friend that every time they call, they build me up, they motivate me. That's a human thing. Your goal, my goal, the goal of all of our listeners is in every moment we're in, how much value can we bring to that moment? How by being the most of who we are, can we make that moment the best that it can be? That'll take you all the way up to some of the richest people in the world. And you'll operate the same there as you do when you're talking with my friend Joseph, down to the ordinary Joes that are listening. And you'll live a life of value, not a life of money and affluence. You'll get those too. You will get those. But you'll live a life worth living. Legacy. Greatness. Ideas that really matter. Ideas that you can build, uplift neighborhoods and communities with. Yeah.
Well, there you go, folks. It's the story that you just told me answers everything. The question that we asked in the beginning of this episode.
Sure.
How do you stand out in a crowded space? And right there, the VIP room that you were just describing there.
Sure.
Everybody wants a time with Richard Branson, but you got the most of his attention, and you hugged and laughed.
We had I offered to do a speech for him in Chicago, and I said, "Hey, stay in Toronto. I'll go to Chicago and do your speech." And he said, "No, I'd love that." I said, "I've got to warn you, Richard. I'm going to be using gregarious Dr. Seuss references through the whole thing." He's like, "No, that's great." I'm like, No. I'm not using the places you will go, Dr. Seuss. I'm using one fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish." And he just started laughing, and I was laughing. I'm like, I could go all day, hop on pop. And so we were having a great time, but it was two humans connecting. So what's the lesson? Let's get back to the lesson, because the story is great, but let's get back to the lesson. In every situation you're in, the seemingly mundane ones, the ones that don't seem to matter, when nobody's watching, when everybody's watching, when you're deciding what you're going to do, when you're approaching someone, when you're reacting to what someone says to you, ask yourself, in this moment, am I being the highest representation of my passions? Am I being the best cultivation of my talents? Am I living completely inside of my highest values? And am I treating this moment as a singular opportunity and responsibility to create the biggest positive impact I can? The cumulative effect of those moments is greatness. There are no big decisions. There's no little decisions. There's no big moments. There's no little moments. There's simply a life lived of purpose to create impact. That's an exhaustive process. It's not an individual. It's an exhaustive process. Yeah.
No, it's like a deja vu on our first time that you were here with us. Mr. Gittens, is focus on every moment is important.
Every moment.
And integrity.
Absolutely.
Integrity. Doesn't matter who's looking. You be who you are.
Sure.
And that's how you stand out in a crowded and dense business space.
Like we opened up the segment, you are one of one. Why would you give that away? But when you project the most of who you are to create the biggest impact, every historical figure that we look up to, they made a decision. Is that this is what I believe is right, and I'm going to put everything I am behind it. We can all do that.
I felt,
we can all do that.
Yeah, I felt the whole episode was that
Sure.
It was that moment you're giving everything. It's another pack full of insights and information today. So I didn't interrupt you for the last break, but
we don't do breaks.
We don't breaks.
Greatness doesn't have breaks.
Exactly. You don't take breaks for greatness.
Right.
Thank you very much again, Mr. Alexander Micheal Gittens. Please come back.
Absolutely.
Come back. I really want to have you all the time. Come as much as you want. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joseph.
And God bless you. And I hope many more lives be touched by your insights.
I appreciate it.
Take care.
Yes. Take care.
Thank you, folks, for sticking with us and listening to today's podcast. And we'll see you again next week, Monday, on another episode of Finance, Business, and Indie-Preneur Monday's podcast, only here at It's Just Another Ordinary Joe Show daily podcast. God bless you all, and see you soon again.